We welcome you to the Priscilla R. Tyson Cultural Arts Center for our conversations and coffee on this 28th day of August, 2025. I'm Ellen O'Shaughnessy, coordinator of the program. We're delighted to have with us today our guest artist, George Leach, painter in watercolor and oil, who names his art titled Red Sky Series of paintings and stained glass windows. We celebrate with the Franklin County Court newsletter that headlines Judge George Leach's artwork chosen for display as part of the Fine Arts exhibition of the Ohio State Fair. Congratulations, Judge Leach. Let us have you stand here and receive. How wonderful that you combine the vocation of being called to art with your call to being a judge in the Franklin County Court of Common Pleas and serving us. You share that it should be of no surprise to anyone that the environmental discussion in the last 5 to 7 years focused on our warming planet and the extreme drought conditions in many parts of the world and in many American states. Based on historical data, environmental experts forecast the record numbers of fires around the world. In the United States, this is evidenced by the number of fires occurring in California, number of fires occurring now. But since 2017, with the largest fires in California being the Kincaid Fire, the August Complex Fire, the Dixie Fire, and the Mosquito Fire. Considering what George believed would be a continuing occurrence in April 2022, he adapted his traditional painting style of environmental settings to include cadmium red skies. His first set of paintings as part of his Red Sky series consists of a group of 6 watercolor paintings, 9 inches by 12 inches. After finishing the watercolor pieces, George began oil versions of 24 inches by 24 inches of linen on board. In July of 2023, George saw 2 pictures posted on social media as viewed from New York of the red skies caused by the fires occurring in Canada's 13 provinces and territories. In 2024, George shares that he designed personalized stained glass windows to place in front of each of his paintings. He says, "The combination of my paintings with cadmium red skies and red stained glass windows presents an eerie reminder of the red skies as seen from New York in the summer of 2023, approximately 1 year after I started my red sky paintings." And to this day, 75 paintings are in several county houses. George has a BA in political science from the University of Akron, elementary school certification from Ohio Dominican University, and a Doctor of Law degree from the Thomas Cooley Law School. His group exhibitions have been at the Zanesville Museum of Art in 2013, the Mansfield Museum of Art in 2009, the Sharon Weiss Gallery in 2008, and our beloved Cultural Arts Center in 1998. George, we thank you for your care for our environment, for raising our consciousness through the beauty and creativity of your art. We're inspired not to lose heart by following your journey and being careful for the sake of our Mother Earth and each other. Thank you for being with us today. What a, yes.
Well, thank you all for being here, because without the viewers, the artists, the collectors, and just art enthusiasts and observers of art, we make for naught. Without you spreading the word about art, and whether it's you agree with my art or like it or not, at least you're here and at least you're going to talk about it, and that's what we all want. Without you, the collectors, our art dies because it's just going to end up in a landfill like many other things in our lives. So I want to thank especially Ms. O'Shaughnessy for allowing me to be here, and Tom Bellew for suggesting that connection. And also I want to thank the very first painting instructor I ever had, and the only one I ever had, is Tracy is in the back here. Many of you know this if you've been around me, but my career of painting started in 1994. I never painted before other than that. I was in Chicago on a bicycle in Chicago, but I was actually there for a sports buying event. I was a sports person who bought shoes and tennis shoes for a big chain of stores. So our buying shows were in Chicago and Atlanta. So I was in a bicycle accident in Chicago, ended up in a hospital for a couple of weeks as John Doe. Of course, I didn't have any ID on me. And then that summer I was laid up, and that's when I decided to start painting. It was soon after that I decided to come to the Cultural Arts Center, and that's where I started to take lessons from Tracy. And he was kind enough to tell me to just keep painting. And that's exactly what I did from that day on. And I had my first show here at the Cultural Arts Center, and I've had many shows. You just highlighted a few, and I've been in the State Fair probably 15 times at least over the years, and other museum shows, and I donate to all the charity events, Art for Life and so forth, and Art of Recovery, to keep that going as well, because that's an important part of life for all of us as well. Those that need help, we try to help, even the artists. Artists are always the first ones they ask to help, but with their donations, and artists always are gladly donating. But so, great for the great introduction. Thank you again for that. I'll refer to my notes now and then. I'll have a slideshow here for you. This was the poster that was produced by the Ohio Art League for the show, and I had written on the top of it, you want to see it at night. Because this show was, we had two shows. One was during the day and one was at night. The night show, we got to turn the lights off, and then you get the feel of these paintings. The optimum position is in the dark. And so we had a night show, it was very popular, and we had a day show for those that couldn't make it at the night. So they're designed so that you could show them in your home, and because your home isn't usually this bright, and they will give you that effect of the glow of the cadmium red will come through very well for you. Nope, it says no. Safety issues. At my gallery, there weren't that many safety issues, but thank you for that. So that's what I started the show for. This is slide one, just showing you the event. This is the piece that was in the State Fair. It's also the one on the far left there. And so going there, we're going to go to. But anyhow, a little about me, you've heard already. I have a teaching certification, and I'm an avid athlete. I used to be, much younger years, an avid athlete, and that's how this all started, was because I was pursuing the athletics. And as teaching, I started painting before I got my teaching degree. And so art became important to me as teaching as well. So one of the things I always involved in the lesson plans was art, and there's lots of ways to do it. And so I taught mostly 5th grade in Westerville. And so one of the first things I did with the kids, we created a team feeling about the school, about you kids. And the best way I can convince them is that it's like a baseball team. And every baseball player they autograph the balls for you, and then there's a sweet spot on the ball. And that's what's called, where you want the real autograph, the one you want. And so the kids all came up with, I painted this first painting, and so it has a baseball with all the kids' autographs that I painted. And then each child got a copy of it with the sweet spot where they actually signed it. And then they got to take that home with them. So it showed them how to be a part of a team, because they all had to cooperate and figure out how to sign on a baseball, because it's not an easy thing to do unless you're a baseball player. We don't get much practice in that. But this is just one example of the things that I did in a creative world. And even before art, I was a creative person. I was a business person. I could forecast pretty well trends in the sports business and the retail business, clothing, shoes. And that's how the Athlete's Foot, I worked for a company called the Athlete's Foot, used to be based out of Pittsburgh, thousands of stores. And so I was one of their buyers, and I went with a franchisee who owned a lot of stores as well. And during that period, I found myself in Northeast Ohio, in Akron, and the Browns were hot, remember the dogs and everything? So in 1982, 82 and 83, the Browns are really hot, and I'm running a bunch of stores and I'm buying merchandise to sell in the stores. So I said, this dogs thing, it's going to go big. So we invented the dog ears. I was the first guy who invented the dog ears that you saw thousands of times on TV, basically. So they're Cleveland dog ears. I sold thousands of these outside the stadium and in JCPenney's and Sears and everything, and I was 23 years old when I did this. But the creative part of me was still there, even though I haven't discovered it. This was creative. It was something to do, and it made some money for me. It was an NFL license item eventually. At first, I didn't need it. Then they came to me and said, well, you have to license this. I said, I was before you. You didn't have an item. I was the first one. So we had T-shirts, we had dog ears, and then some other teams. And so I did license it eventually with the NFL and sold them through the NFL as well. Then the Browns, you know the story, moved to Baltimore, and it became a bad time for a while for us. But anyhow, so the creative part was in you. It's in you. You just have to discover it. It's part of your life every day. It's probably there. You just have to discover it. In 1994, I was forced to discover it. And so that's that slide here. Then we go to, that's just what we talked about. My involvement in life is as busy as all of you. I'm the same. I'm as busy as all of you. And we do many things. And artists are very good at that. They don't give themselves much credit, but they do juggle a lot. But then we go into this series. So when I first started painting, I actually did stained glass. And you see the double jesters there walking down the rainbow path. And that was one of the first glass pieces I did. I learned that skill in Lancaster, Ohio. There's a glass artist there from Athens who taught me how to cut glass and to lead it and everything. And I went, obsession is a thing we all have too, artists. Once we start, we're obsessed. And I took glass to the obsession as well. But those are two examples of my first glass piece and one of the early oil paintings that I was able to do, and that's Lakeside, up in Lake Erie, Lakeside up there, and that's the lighthouse near there. So that was where it started, and I knew I was stuck. Once I was in, and I still do glass today, but we had a big break in there. I had twins, and so I couldn't do glass at my house anymore, so I had to delay that. And so I stuck more to oil painting. And so there's an example of combining the two together. These are the fires that were rattled off in the beginning, and it was over 2.5 million acres. And every year I was hearing that fires are burning in California, and it's not just one. These are the highlighted fires. These are the largest ones. There are numerous ones all over the state happening. And we hear about it, but it's not around us. We don't see it. We don't smell it. We don't see it on our news every day and everything we watch. But social media has changed that. Now we're getting it every day. We hear about it every day. We're getting incredible pictures of it every day, of how things are changing. And so I started paying attention to that, and I said, I'm going to do a series of watercolors with red skies then, because if you've seen, these are pictures that I would have seen, and you can see if you search the internet. These are the skies in these cities. Each location, I chose one photo that I was impacted with. And one thing in my paintings that I didn't do, I didn't put the fire because I didn't want that in there. I wanted hope still to exist. I wanted a change still possible. So I'm showing you the skies from New York that Canada sent over the reds, with their fires, the glow in the red skies. I didn't want to show you that it's hopeless and it's so destructive. You know that already. My art isn't supposed to turn you off. It's supposed to show you a warning that you don't want to be here. And so that's why you don't have any fire in my pieces. None of them are lit, because it's just, I don't want it to be doom and gloom. I still believe we can fix this issue. And so my paintings I want you to have hope after you see them and absorb them. This doesn't give you much hope. And so that's why I didn't paint them with fire in the paintings. So many have asked that question, why don't they have the flames and look at the beauty. I mean, the beautiful colors are in there and very impactful, but I think I achieved the same with the look that I have. So these are all the fires that were initially and you can see they're mostly landscapes, so I'm a big painter of barns and buildings, so that's how I started painting, was barns and buildings. And so I focused on barns and buildings on most of my first 6 paintings and places I've been to. Yes, sir?
George, it sounds like, thank you. Red is for stop, like we did in the beginning. Be still. And know,
right?
What's ahead, but pause. Yeah, I like that.
And that's what I want the viewer to feel, exactly that. All right. So then we move over to the actual series. This is the first set of the series, and these were, in my mind, at the time of finishing them, I thought they were done. I used natural landscapes. The first debate we had in the art world was posting on social media was, should they have trees? I published one without a tree and one with trees. Because the trees, if you notice, they're black, and they're rooted black, so they're dying, you know, and I didn't know if I wanted to continue that. So I published one without trees and one with trees, and then the votes were to have the trees on this set, but then when I went to the next set, the vote became, I showed these, and people said no trees. I showed the first one, and it was no trees, because now, and these are, I apologize for the scrunched in. This is a steel mill in Youngstown, which is my hometown, so I did homage to my town. And then you have San Francisco, the painted ladies on the top, and a farmhouse, a typical farmhouse in Ohio or in California, and then the barn, and same thing. All still natural landscapes, color-wise. And that's why I thought they were done. I thought that this is going well. I'm liking this series. My Facebook friends and Instagram friends seem to like it, and they understand it. And so I was pretty satisfied with this. I think it was going in the right direction. Did you have a question?
So what was you were talking about the trees being in the first set but not in the second set, and that was all because of viewers saying we like it better without. Why would they like it better without? Because you're putting a feeling out there. I know you want hope after, but here's reality. And now we're, hoping for better things. Maybe, the dead here, starting new and reviving type thing.
You've nailed it. That is exactly why I took the trees out, because remember in the beginning I didn't put the flames in for hope, and then some thought the trees were too far too. They thought, well, it must have affected the environment so much already. Is it too far? Because when you destroy the vegetation, you will destroy the oxygen we breathe and the carbon dioxide that they absorb, and it starts that cycle. So yes, that's exactly why. You nailed it right on the head as to why I took it out of these pieces, because I didn't want that to be their takeaway, that the hope, it started already. It started. The final chapter has started, and I didn't want that. That's why the trees came out on the larger pieces. And so these are all oil pieces, and the first six were all watercolor. So this is my first start. So I did this. I'm feeling pretty good about it. And then we go to Europe for vacation. And so we're there on the summer of 2023, and took the normal pictures that you all would take, that we all take everywhere around the world, the landmarks. And thought that was wonderful. I'm going to make pieces out of these, and I come back and I do that. But I did the first 4 before I went to Europe. The second 4 were after Europe, but I still kept the natural color environments. And then on the way back on the plane, I'm looking at my phone and I see the New York skies. And these are the 2 photos that I saw. And so this showed me that there's no fire, so I'm still on board with that I don't have to create so much gloom and doom that it's we need to just like shake in our boots or anything. I still want hope in the pieces. And but it was colorized, the whole piece. And I thought, wow, how can I make this happen to my pieces? I like this effect. And I think it sends the message even deeper, but without going too far. There's still no fire, and there may be, in this one, there's no trees either in these because it's city scenes. But I think the hope is still there, but it's now a little bit closer to it's pushing the envelope a little closer to the are we too late feeling that I don't want to have. But I saw these photos and I said, I have to do something. So I racking my brain. I could do a wash, as artists know that are here. I could have put a red wash, a cadmium wash over this, over all the pieces, and it would have tinted it. And I thought, well, then what if one day I want to take it off? Then I thought, oh, what if the buyer who buys this piece doesn't want it with the glass, or with the red? There's no going back. So I said, well, how could I fix this problem without ruining the piece, but still keeping my message? And that was when I said, wait a minute, I could put a piece of glass in front of that. So then the question, then I went down the street from us here at the Franklin Art and Glass Center, and bought a very large piece of glass, cut it to fit one of the large paintings first. It was the farmhouse. And I put it in front of it. And that's what this talks about, so we can skip that. And there's what I had. So this is the piece I saw first. I said, oh, well, that looks really good. It kind of now looks like the New York photos. It's transferred this into that feeling. But it still wasn't working for me. Now it's just because the photos, the two New York skies, were very busy and crowded. And so I didn't feel that my pieces now lived up to that. I almost look like I have too much of void space because the red makes it all red. There's a very little variation between the ground now as well. And so I said, well, I still have to do something then. It's not right. So I got some duct tape out, and that's what's to the left there. And I stripped some pieces of duct tape to create a window. I said, what if I make you look through the window from wherever you are to the piece? And that's what the design is. You're looking through the window wherever the subject is. And so in this case, you're at another farmhouse looking out at this farmhouse. And now it takes it home. Now I say, I can live with that. It breaks up the piece into quarters, this one particularly, and now I'm not bothered by all that red. And you can actually see it. That's not a very good picture of it. When you come to and I hope you will, come up to the pieces, you can actually see the fence still. You can still see the grass and, the fencing and the areas where the cattle would be or something. And you can see it if you look close, and if we were in a darker room, you'd definitely see it. And for the large pieces, I actually put 2 lights on it. I put another light below this one. I didn't do it here. But that would give it a little more, because there is a lot of space on there to light up. But so now I said, now the question became for my viewers, with or without windows. Is it a window or is it just a pane of glass? And it was overwhelming. The windows was it. Especially when I said I was going to design a window for the subject. So if you're looking through a farmhouse, that's it. But now, if you're looking through a different farmhouse, you might have this window, which is the one here. And then look at you got a house across the street from the painted ladies with all smaller blocks. And so now each painting is a different window wherever the subject is. And so that's in a factory area, you're going to have more industrial type windows, just 2 panels like that. So now it's putting you outside the building you're looking at it. So now the European pieces had to be done. These are close-ups and stretched. But you can see, I just wanted to show you the cut glass work here, because the windows of the Parliament House there and buildings around there, they're very detailed. They're very, lots of cut glass in different shapes. And so I would imagine you'd be at a building looking at it with cut glass. And so that's similar to that. And then this was a little different. So there are no houses around Stonehenge. It's a big field. But you know what there is? There's a bus that takes you there. These would be bus windows. So, because there are no houses there. It's just a big, if you've been there, you know. So I had to come up, what do I do with this one? I said, well, it has to be an old bus that has the windows that you kind of push on and open. So that's to give you the feel that you're on the bus looking at Stonehenge then. And there's the Louvre. So I kind of pyramid that similar to the Louvre in the feel of it. And there, as you've been there are buildings all around. They're practically at one end. So you could be looking at that from the building, and you would have those windows in the building. And then the same thing with Notre Dame, which terrible picture here, but it's much more visible. Yes?
Did you cut the pieces of glass then to create the windows, or are you just forming it on top of that to do the windows?
No, they're all cut panels. Yep, each piece is cut and leaded, and copper. If you've done stained glass, you have to copper it first, and then you lead that onto it. And they're all stained glass. They're all framed in a cane, they call it. The framing of glass is cane. And so they're all done. Yeah, each one individually, all the pieces had to be done. And so, getting that round in there was not the best thing, easiest thing to do. But I've done glass since probably the time I took art. It was one of my immediate things I wanted to do was glass as well, since '94. And so we opened, and the show has been very popular wherever it's gone. And now there are pieces hanging in Hocking County at the courthouse there. And it's been to the state fair. I wanted them to have 3 pieces and to put it in a dark area, but they only took the 1. They didn't want to give up the space for 3. And I'm preparing, we're working on how to figure out how to make cards of this. So I think we're going to have to layer photos, and then they can digitally lay on top the color is where we're at on that. But, so I'm very pleased with it, and I think everybody sees now. Post Red Skies, it's still happening, and these are just fires since I created this series. Even after the final, it's still going on, and it's gotten worse. California fire this year was actually worse than any of the others, and it's just incredible. And now we got Arizona with fires, and so I just want people to think about it. You know, there will be more pieces now as well. I think I'm going to add to the collection and do more settings just to keep it up, and eventually I don't know, I hope there won't be many left, but there are 14 now, 14 pieces in this collection. And so that's the Red Skies. What happened, you know, the whole thing with this too is the hope. That is most important to me, is the hope. You have hope. And I hope that you have seen this now, and when you talk about it, it's still hope that we all have. I'm not going to, I'm obviously a political person as an elected judge, but I'm not going to stand on a pedestal and talk about what's wrong and right. I'm just saying this is what I have seen, and I want you to see it and think about it too. Okay, questions, please?
So a comment, question, and then the lady there. Philosophers, I'm a bit of a philosopher, have a summary of what you're talking about, the windows. Each personality in the room here and throughout the world perceives through the mode of the receiver. The English is whatever is received, perceived, is perceived, received through the mode of the receiver. So to put a window like you are, and to put the red sky, are helping us perceive what you have seen. And then, of course, we perceive it somewhat differently and somewhat similar. That's the beauty of it, that we are, like your hope.
Yes.
Hopeful for joy.
Yep, thank you.
So these are watercolors behind the stained glass?
Yes, sir.
Are the watercolors colored, or are they the original ones you painted?
Yeah, they're actually colored. I'll show you some. The whole series started out keeping colors in it, and they actually displayed pretty well. They were shown and displayed pretty well. And those two little ones are pieces right here.
That takes out, or filters out all the other.
Yeah. I mean, you work so hard to make them look so good colored, and then I just put red over it. Like, wow, couldn't there be an easier way to do this?
I can see it from here, but if you're up close, can you distinguish the different shades through the red?
Yes, you can see. Yep. When you go up close, like the blue and the red in that truck, you can see the differences in a red hue. It just creates this unlimited red hue now. It helps. I think the colors help it give you that depth of color of red, because it was just, maybe if it was all red, it would not. I don't know. I haven't tried it. This is the effect it has now. It seems to work. Yes.
So, George, I have a couple questions. One, talk for a minute about how you chose the frames for each theme.
All right. Yes. That was part of the process too. When initially I did it, the frames that I wanted I wanted the frame not to take away from what you're looking at, but to still be plain. The original ones are very plain, like a wall. You know, they're not very. It became. I know you're going to look at the big ones next. It was purposely designed so that I could have that smooth surface like a wall. You'll quickly go past the frame into the painting. And then when I did the large pieces, I was doing another series that had used the same frame. It was a water lily series, and it was green. They were green. And so I bought a bunch of those, and it worked really well for the lilies. Oh my God, they're incredible with that. Maybe it's the next show. And so the lilies worked out well, but then I said, wonder if I could paint that. And because, again, now it's environmental. And so the lilies was an environmental frame, and I said, well, I could paint it black and then give the effect that, and thank you for picking up. Nobody has ever asked that question yet, because you see the doom and gloom are seeping in, is what's happened in the new frame with the vegetation, because it's all black. And so it's just seeping in. And that was You're the first person to ever ask that question. So, and thank you for that, because that's exactly what it was. I did the lilies, and they were incredibly beautiful with that frame in green. And I said, well, I like the frame, but I don't want it green because it won't send the right message. And so then I painted them black. Yep.
So one more question. As seniors get older, often their vision is not as sharp as it should be. And when I see your work, especially like this, it's harder for me to see it. And have you thought about, for example, transferring your watercolor to a translucent sheet? You know, it's still your watercolor.
Mm-hmm.
And then having a light come from behind?
And great question, too. I wish I had a picture of it. It's on my phone, but it's not on me. I've done that with glass already, where I have 2 state seals that I did for one for my courtroom and one for Judge Paley, who has one. We did it together, Judge Paley and I. And they are illuminated with LED lights, and it is a great effect. And I have thought of that. And in fact, at somebody's show at Ohio Art League at the gallery, the artist did a bunch of paintings that looked like stained glass, and they were beautiful. And I said that to her, I asked her that. I said, these would be incredible with a light source behind it. But because they were painted with, with the opaque painting, and the light wouldn't go through the canvas at that point. She wasn't around, but I did lift one of her paintings off the wall, and I put a light behind it to see if it would work. I did do that.
So is it the same effect if you put the
It
light
would,
behind?
yes, it would be amazing.
Do you lose the window which you're looking for?
No, it just brightens it up. It illuminates it. And it is a great idea, and it is a thought. That's why I said there were going to be more in this series. Yes, ma'am.
Have you seen the church on Livingston Avenue that has all the stained glass windows?
I go to all of them and look at it. Yeah, yeah. I love stained glass. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yep. I've been to, we have all traveled. Wherever I travel, I do go to the churches and check out the glass and everything. I don't paint the figures on glass yet. Still haven't tried that, but because I do portraits as well, I can do that. But I just haven't done it yet. Great questions. Thank you. Any? Yes, sir.
I got a question. As far as texture of glass, can you get different textures through glass, like old glass and new glass? Or
Great question. Yep, that goes into the formula. So when I went to Franklin Art and Glass, the issue was, what glass do you pick? If you do glass, there's fused glass and there's regular pane glass. And so these are actually fused glass that you could cut up and fuse into paintings or jewelry and things like that. And the reason is because they have an old look to them. When you look closely at them, you'll see, some defects. You'll see more lines and rolling effects, and that is what I wanted as well, because these are not new buildings that exist outside these places that I've shown you here. They would be old buildings. And so the fused glass gave me the look of old windows, and that's why I chose it. It's like 3 times the price of the pane glass, though, but that's the way it goes. It had to be that way once I discovered the difference, because you go there and there's like thousands of pieces of glass, and they said, well, what's this difference in this one, and the fused glass. And it doesn't shine. If you notice, there's not a big glare on the glass, and the pane glass, the normal stuff that you do not fuse, has more of a glare. And I wanted to cut down on the glare. I wanted the light to go through it and not reflect back to you so much. Good question. That's exactly a thought. I did cross that bridge. Yep.
Just like in the artwork that's currently in the Raw Gallery, the Uncensored show, for these artworks, do you ever see a buying market for them?
Already, there's one of them here, and so yeah, I think people do like them, and I don't show them all the time, and I really don't like to sell too much on certain series, and that's stupid to say. I know it sounds like ridiculous, but because if I want to show them, like here, I would have to borrow them from the people that own them, and not that they wouldn't do it. I'm sure I could borrow the piece anytime. And I do want the whole collection to be shown together sometime. So like in Hocking County, I put them on loan there for nothing because it helps me keep the collection in-house. And the same thing, I have at the courthouse, there are probably at least 75 to 100 paintings around the courthouses that are hanging, that are mine. They don't own a single one of them. They think they do, maybe. I don't know. Because some of them have been there for 10 years or more, but I have never abandoned them. You've heard me say it here today.
Try taking it out.
Yeah, I know. I do have my garage key still works, so I can get in there.
Making these, since the series is Red Sky, did you start off with the red glass, or did you try different colors of glass, different shades of it?
That's a great question, because I actually did exactly what you said, because in the beginning you wonder if you still want to see some of the color. So I did experiment. Because I cut glass, and the jesters, if you see all those colors, I own all that glass still. It's in my basement. And so I had the luxury of having all those panels available to put up there. And it was, I even tried orange, but the orange and red sky was fine. Then the bottom didn't look right. And once I saw the New York, I knew it had to be the way it is. And that achieved the goal that I had. But I did try other colors, just in case. Because the argument may be, I want to see the grass. I want to see that the grass is still green, or the hay, or whatever it is in those pictures, the straw there. So somebody could say that. And, artists, we're ready for all criticism, as you know. And so we wait for it, because it's coming. And so that's what somebody would say. I want to see the grass. And that's okay, because I painted it so you could see it originally. That was the idea. It stayed that way for 14 paintings. But it was the impact of seeing those photos that changed my mind and drove my direction. But thank you for that. That's a great question. Yes,
So
ma'am.
are you continuing with the series, or are you done with?
No, it's going to keep going for a few more at least. I think there's no harm in continuing it, in my view. I paint a lot, as all of you do, who are artists too. And I'm going to continue it. You're going to see more pieces. You will see different changes to it. I think the illumination is an issue, because this works, especially in your home or in a gallery when I can turn the lights off. But as we all know, you can hardly see the effect right now. There's so much light in this room. But if you would take it in that hallway, it would have a whole different feeling for you. And so, yeah, I'm going to change the process for the next set of them and see and play with that.
Well, at the end of this, we'll turn down the lights when they're not video,
All right.
we can do it.
Excellent.
They're video.
Great. Yes.
I want to say, I like the trees and the effect of the black trunks. When I was in the Grand Canyon in July, and took a train up, as you go to different elevations, the trees change from desert and scrubland, and then there were a lot of blackened trunks as you went north, and it was actually burning on the north rim. But some of those conifers, the cones don't open until fire makes them open, and then they reseed because the forest, because now the ground has the carbon and the ashes, which are more of a rich environment. So it's like part of nature. For the fire that makes the cones open, the seeds fall, and they start the cycle again. And there are green scrublands with black trunks, from the forest that's burned, but it starts again in its natural cycle. So I like your trees. Gives it kind of a gothic effect,
Right.
with those farmhouses and the.
And we all know that forest fires controlled are good. They do help the vegetation. It actually burns away some of the vegetation that's choking. I don't know what young trees are called. There is a name. Yes, it's choking them out. So we know that works. And I agree with you, and that's probably why I put the trees in. Originally, is in your head. You think you see it that way out in the world, and it's probably. But it was something that I agreed with taking it out as well. But yep, thank you for that. Okay, anybody else? Yes, sir.
Is it possible to hold a picture so that you can see and turn it around so that you can see the effect of the light coming from behind?
Well, you won't see any effect now. No light will be viewed from the back because there's layers of foam core and stuff that would stop it from going through right now. You would, on the watercolor especially, if you had those alone, you could project through those and get, that's a great idea, I might do that. That's easy for me to do because I can take it apart. But yeah, you wouldn't be able to do it right now, but yes, that's something I think I could try very soon. Yes, sir.
You've been painting for over 20 years.
Yes.
20 years, okay. I think I met you early in your career. What really is inspiring you? It looks like you find ecology, you found some series of portraiture in different areas. What drives you to certain subjects to paint, or draw, or depict for the public?
That's like a real artist question, I think, and many artists go through that. Your life, first in art, you start painting your family. Family and friends. You paint your family and friends first, usually. You paint what you love as an artist. You go through these phases, and I did that. I just my children just graduated from high school, and they're off to college. So for punishment for them, for 18 years, I pulled out every painting that I ever painted of them, and I hung it in the house. So their friends had to come through our house and see every painting of them as a baby, as an ugly baby, or whatever. So through the years, and so there were probably 50 paintings in my house of the kids growing up, because you do the things you love. And then then I left that for a while. I still do it, because there's a recent one of my son hanging in my office as well. But then I got interested in other things, and you affect me. All the artists that paint affect me, and we affect each other. You may do something I really love, and I said, oh, I'm going to take some of that, you know. And all artists do that. Since the beginning of time, you know, the first cave paintings, we've all been using them. Picasso painted cave paintings, I think, when his. So you're my inspiration, and that's how we develop. So I do love environment, and that's why I had the lilies. I have the barns and buildings with farm yards around and animals, and I did a lot of that. And then now I'm doing more people than I used to do. I'm doing a lot of portraits now. The one judge in the courthouse has probably 20 portraits of mine hanging in her courtroom. So yeah, I have moved on. We love to try new things, as you know yourself as an artist. So yes, sir.
I see a lot of old buildings. Does that give a certain feeling to you when you see a building or something, and you're going down the countryside and say, wow, I have to take a photo of that and bring it back to the studio?
You just described my life. I was a lawyer before a judge, and so I traveled in the central area, counties, all the counties. When I would drive, and I have an artist friend with me here today, Nancy, I would take a picture or write it down. I would go back on the weekend, and I'd bring Nancy and other artists like Rick Akers and Fred Fochman. We would then go to that site and everybody paint in plein air. Because I started painting in plein air pretty much with the OPAS, which is Ohio Plein Air Society. I started with them, and we did tons of that. And I love old barns and buildings. They're just like us. They're dying off. And so it is one of my subjects that I always go back to, and that's why they're here, right here with you to see, because let me see, this one here and this one, I believe, are Leslie Cope slides that I bought from his estate. When Leslie Cope passed away, he had an estate sale. I bought boxes of his slides that he took these pictures, and I turned 36 of them. I don't know if you've ever seen that series. I hung at Sharon Weiss Gallery, but not all of them. She could only fit 20, I think. But they were Leslie Cope slides that I turned into paintings. And then you had a little box next to it, and you push the button, and there's the slide, lit up with the light behind it. So you can see I was true to Leslie Cope and his artist's eye to find that painting. So I am drawn to the buildings, yes. Yes, sir.
That picture right here, and that one on the bottom is the same, ain't it? This one.
This one is, no,
The
they're,
one on the bottom.
oh yeah, in the painting here, in this, yeah, that is that painting. This one is the truck on there. You can see the big difference it makes with the red now. I took such great pain to make that truck red and blue. Yeah. Tom.
Well, the additional message I get with the old buildings is that these are buildings that are survivors. These are the buildings that have come down through time that withstood whatever nature has thrown at them. But now on the horizon is coming something that's not surviving.
Can I take that? Yeah. Yeah, great point. Yep. Thank you. Yes.
On your frames, they're modern metal. I was just curious if you ever interested in doing all these old windows from the 18th century, getting some of those rustic ones that are really nice and framing them up.
That would be nice. Yeah, I have one in my gallery show. In the show that Tom talked about, Uncensored, an artist did use an old frame, and it's got a clown in it with his, it's kind of a scary thing, but the finger coming down it with the blood and all that. But, anyhow. But yes, in fact, my house, I took out all the windows and got new windows. I kept them for years until I was forced to throw them away. So, great question, thank you. Any other questions?
That one right there, that's the same as that one.
Yep. It's the same as this one here.
The second one.
Oh, the second one. Yes. And some of these, this one, they were painted twice because I wanted them in the big series. So the house and the farmhouse and the barn, both were painted again and so was the painted ladies, the pink ladies, painted ladies, was also painted in a large piece as well.
You mentioned the resilience of hope through this. And I was thinking immediately of my husband's parents who lost their home in Santa Barbara. And the resilience of the family, the resilience of all the neighbors who lost their homes, stays with me as something to carry as a gift.
Yeah, they lived what these paintings show, you know, or what they don't show the fires, but it's there. You know it's there. Yeah, and you hear that on the TV all the time, how they're surviving and putting it back together. Just courageous. And thank God I haven't had to do that yet in life. Yes?
So all of your paintings that you do you have an actual favorite series that you've done?
Oh, that's a good question. Wow. I guess I really like the Leslie Cope Barns. Is probably one of my favorite series, 36 of them. And that came from something Nancy got me involved in. The Strata Easel Company that makes these fancy easels for artists used to have a contest. So you paint one painting a day for the entire month. You have to do one a day. And Plein Air Society was another tool that helped me do that very quickly. So I became very quick at painting. But the problem is Strata Easel kicked me out because I wasn't doing it right. Because I would do 36. I couldn't do just 30 or 29. I always do things in like even numbers, so it had to be 36. And it was supposed to be live painting, and I was using photos. And so after a couple of years, they said, "You're not following the rules." I didn't have rules, I guess. Yes, ma'am.
Did you ever paint plein air with Joe Lombardo?
Absolutely, yes, of course. Yes, he is. Yep. Yep, many times. I haven't taken any of his fancy trips now. He's out on one right now, I think. Yep, he's a great painter.
I'll put in a plug for the Cultural Arts Center. The Plein Air Society is going to have an exhibition here in 2026. So
Excellent, great group.
watch for the schedule when it comes out.
Yep. You gain so much by painting with others, you know, just hanging out, and you have a time frame, you have a sun limitation here. It's going to move on you too quick. So yeah, you learn to paint fast with the Plein Air Society.
Question. As far as this series here, the stained glass, I was wondering if you have any artists that you particularly studied to go into the series, like some past artists that were dealing with color, or stained glass artists that were painters, like Rolf. Is that?
No, but there is one painting I saw, and it's ironic that we're here on the 20th anniversary of the New Orleans, the Katrina disaster there. Because I was there a few days after the disaster, and I walked around the worst areas, and there was actually a little gallery showing art. There was an artist in there who had red with the building, and it was a building, it was a house, but it was all black. And it was kind of the same effect. It was so dynamic that it has stuck with me forever, that painting that I saw that day in the red sky. But it wasn't because of any, it was, I think it was because look what they just experienced, I guess. I don't know what, I never talked to the artist or anything. I did see it in New Orleans that week I was there, right after the Katrina hit. Yes?
is there any like specific reason why you chose fires, like environmental commentary, as opposed to like hurricanes or some other kind of environmental disasters?
Just the impact, yes, there's just the impact of seeing the visuals, the photos of the fires and seeing it, especially, that was, the original was the 6 paintings, the watercolors, and that was just based on listening to, and having been to California too, numerous times, and the effect, the paintings that those photos showed you. Their skies were red as well, but that, you know, it's a powerful color, yeah.
Are you cooking up anything that you can share aside from the fires, some new?
I finished a lily pad series. Now I'm getting them filmed and printed. And one was on Facebook. It was, I did lily pads on top, like 15 or 17 of them. And then I did underneath the water. So there are pictures, paintings that I did looking from underneath the lily, way down in the ground looking up, and those have been, they've been quite popular. They underneath, if I'd have known that, I would have done 17 underneath the water and then only 3 of the top of the water. But yeah, those, look for that. Those are at the printer at Key Graphics down the street. They're making cards for me on that series. There's one especially, it's got these, I don't know how to get it in, but it's just amazing, I think. The colors are just beautiful. It is, and one of them is going to be called Optimism, and I think Tom's a true optimist based on his comments and things. It's called Optimism because it's that survival, that flower wants to bloom and it wants to show the world. And so it's fighting its way, and there are several of them. They're fighting their way up to the top. Again, it's kind of like emotional feeling that we got in these paintings, but I'm still trying to be an optimist here. And those lilies, those blooms are just fighting. When you see it, you'll know what I mean by that. And I think they make it. Yes.
Where did you find a reference for that? Did you go underwater and take pictures?
No, it was I just came across it on a search on social media. I'm searching because I was finishing the little ones. They're all watercolor and they're the same size as the watercolors here. And I finished those and I said, I need some statement pieces. You know how it is when you have a show, you have to have a statement piece. I said, I have to come up with a statement piece here. And I was typed lilies, lily pads or something, and I saw somebody's underwater picture. I said, oh, there it is. I said, that's it. That's the statement that people will say, wow, I never thought of it from that angle. How many would think of painting underneath the water? And so I actually want to create a very large one now. In my head so far. I'm thinking it through of that piece, but it will be from the shoreline across. So you'll go up the shore a little bit on the edge of the river, and you'll come across and down. That's the next one. That'll be the final one in that series. And it's probably going to be 6 feet. And I think we're out of time. Is that right? Are you ready? You have a question? Oh, okay.
Is there anything in your professional life that has influenced anything in your artistic life? Other than the life being in Chicago at a certain time?
Yeah, the professional life takes me and gives me the opportunity to see these things. I've seen these barns that Leslie Cope filmed. A lot of them are still around by driving in my car. And my first car had a great GPS. You could actually push the button where you are, and it will register it. And I could always go back. And that's how Nancy and I would go back to the very same spot. I said, you've got to go to this barn, this place. And you have to be back in the hills of Somerset or something. I could find that place because it was GPS, graphed. But that driving around as a lawyer was very influential. Thank you.
I would think that also, as a judge doing domestic and family case law, that you've seen it all, and you've seen both the worst, but also the most hopeful. And I can see that coming into how you approach these ideas.
You've just described the portrait series. That's exactly what it is. It is all of that. It is the suffering as well as the happy. It's but it really my portrait series. There are a lot of them. It's still optimistic, I think. Although I may show you a picture that a person in a rough way or something, but it's still it's optimism in there. I don't think I painted many of them or any. I think that are depressing. But all people have sensitivity is different. So what I may not think is depressing, you may. So I respect that as well.
If we could ask a personal question, how did you decide to go into law?
Yeah, that's a tough one too, because I graduated in a long time. I took a 15-year gap. But what drove me to law was because other things didn't work out, I guess. I mean, I had a great life in the sports business. I mean, it was really good to me. But then I tried, I wanted to teach because I had done well, and I said, you know, I'm not going to teach because I need to make money. I'm going to teach because I really want to teach children. I love teaching. Yep, and so I took up the teaching and got the job and everything, and then it was physically wrong for me because you get punched a few times, and you're thinking it wasn't good for me. And then I stopped teaching immediately after that. And then I said, now what do I got to do? I said, well, I'm just going to go back and get my law degree. And that's when I decided. And I took it. I got my law degree in 2 years. So I took an expedited course that you can do. Only 2 schools at the time allowed it. So you go year round. And which it's been wonderful. Every job I've had, even the teaching, and I worked at, there was some jobs I can tell you over the years, at a Hot and Now burger place, and you know, over the years. Every job I've had, I've loved though. And I learned from every job. I really have no complaints on anything I've ever done. It's always it's just and I don't think I'll ever stop, you know, unless they kick me out or something. But I'll still have my law license because I do love it. I love working. I love people, and ultimately, all this is all funneled into people, and that's where I'm at. So. All right.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thanks for
Thank you,
listening.
Secretary.
Thanks, everybody.